All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's Reverse Book Club. Hopefully, you enjoyed a little ELO to start off your Friday morning. The sun just coming up at 9 a.m. You got to love that. That'll all change in about 48 hours. Don't forget to set those clocks back this weekend. Get that sun coming up a little bit earlier. All right, guys, we are going to dive right in this morning. We've got a fun one with a lot of good conversation for this month's Reverse Book Club. And I tell you, of all the books we have covered this year, there are few that I've found as immediately applicable as this one, specifically to the industry of real estate and a career in real estate. And we're going to talk about some of the key takeaways from this book, and they should ring some bells, not so faintly for a lot of people on the call. And if they don't today, they will Monday after the business planning clinic. So let's talk about the five big chunks of this book, Never Eat Alone. Pretty simple concept. Few things that you're probably going to be unsurprised to see here as a foundation for this book and today's conversation. We are talking about mindset first. We always start with mindset. Having a good frame of reference for what you're doing by setting goals. Then we're going to talk really how to and practically about the skill building needed for successful networking, lead generation, business development, whatever you want to call it. To talk a lot about follow-up and systems that are important there, and then leveling up your connections to level up your life. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. Maybe. Slides do not appear to be moving forward. There we go. So let's talk about mindset. First, before we go on this journey of the hows and whats of our networking strategies and networking skills, we really have to get our heads wrapped around what is why is networking so valuable? And once we have an appreciation for why it's valuable, then we can really do the things we have to do to take advantage of it. So the first concept that's underpinned in this book is that success in any field, and I would say especially real estate, is about working with people, not against people. And sometimes we all have co-brokes who forget this very simple rule, but knowing that we will only succeed when we're working with others will put us in a frame of mind and a frame of reference that allows us to see the value and opportunity in everybody in our lives. And we have Gary Keller has this quote that is oft repeated in Bold and in Ignite, and that is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And it's interesting. One of the things that this book works really hard to break down is this like iconoclastic image of the lone wolf and the solo, Clint Eastwood type character that is just out there on his own, roughing it and getting it done. It's important to realize that there's a reason that's in fiction, right? And there's a reason we don't know anybody like that, is that there's a pretty good chance that they're not successful, or they're not the type of person. They don't exist, I think, is long story short there. And I think it's important to realize that that pinned with the first piece is that everybody in our life, right, has some value. And then the opportunity for us to draw that value out for ourselves or for others is the real purpose of having a network, right? And it's, because it's not about you, it's about the other person. Quick poll in the chat. If you could just drop in the chat box, who's the most important person in your life? And there are no bonus points for saying me. And because I know that's what Jarecki was going to do. He was going to type Rapaski in there. All right. Wife, kids, family, husband. I love all of that. I will say that Mike Rapaski, Scott, I said no bonus points, but I lied. There are bonus points and you just got them. No, so I think that's I think those are some very important people in your lives. I am a believer that we are all genetically encoded and predisposed to care about ourselves. It is the survival gene. And I know that, spouses will tell me that you lose that whenever you are married, or parents will tell me you lose that whenever you have kids. And I think that is definitely a point of view. But science would say that we are first and foremost concerned with our survival, and then the providing for others that are most important to us. And that is not a bad thing, right? That inherent genetically encoded selfishness is one of the things that is most exploitable from a networking standpoint. And it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. Just know that when you are in conversation and relationship with somebody else, the number one question that they are likely asking themselves is WIIFM, right? Everybody's favorite radio station to tune into. It's what's in it for me, right? And so when you are building relationships, having conversations, there are people who are, first and foremost thinking about themselves. And that's great, because when we add value to other people, they are more likely to add value back to us. And sometimes we have to draw that out, because a lot of people are scared to ask for the help that they want or the things that they need. And so you can get into very deep relationships very quickly by asking questions about what's important to the other person, right? And so having that in your mind and between your ears shifts your frame of reference in the way that you're approaching conversations and relationships. And we'll talk about that, of course, very shortly. And if you This is a great Zig Ziglar line, which is, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have whatever you want. One of the things that this book really hammers about, because as you start to do this intentionally, you will find that not everybody follows the rules of reciprocity as aggressively as we would like them to. And it's important that as you go on a journey of networks and relationship building and business development and relationship management, fight the tendency to keep score, at least as in the early stages, right? And we talk a lot about, hey, if I'm building my business on referral and I reward the referrer, and I know that this person gives me a lot of referrals, I want to reward them differently. That's okay. But just know, is we're talking about mindset, and we're rethinking about the way that we're approaching our relationships from a network building exercise. It's important not to keep score, right? And look, I think that realtors are naturally really good at this, right? If you made 100 calls and got appointments, you would feel pretty good about that. But if you know that maybe the first 99 calls that you make are no appointments, and the last one is an appointment. So treat your relationships the same way. Hey, I'm going to invest. I'm going to do things. I'm going to buy coffees and lunches or whatever. And, maybe 4 out of 5 don't yield anything. And the 5th one gets me my biggest deal ever, or whatever it is. But, go from a mindset of giving and abundance, helping others, and focusing on them. All right, the second piece of this puzzle, second foundationary piece, if we have our mindset right, is understanding, what are our goals. So from a goal setting standpoint, the conversation in this book is specifically around goals related to networking. Those have to be positioned appropriately against whatever our main goal is. It could be our big why, it could be our real estate business, it could be getting in better shape, whatever it is. The networking for the sake of networking is not a very effective thing. So you want to position all your thoughts around relationship building and networking and business development towards, what's my goal? So my goal is to sell 100 houses next year. My goal is to do X, Y, or Z. And then you can get intentional about who do you need to be in relationship with? Who do you need to be associated with? So this book talks about this concept of a personal board of advisors. So these are people that, you get into it could be a mentor-mentee type relationship. It could be, a relationship where you are tapping different people for different parts of your life. Like, oh yeah, this person's on my board and they hold me accountable to my health and wellness. This person's on my board, they hold me accountable to going on vacations. Whatever it is, there's a completely different mindset change in the conversation related to who you want to be in relationship with when you start to think about who would you want to be on your board of advisors or your board of directors, right? So if you were running a company or a nonprofit, even every Fortune 500 company, every publicly traded company, most companies have a board of directors. And it's not a bunch of people that are inside that company, right? It's a very diverse and eclectic group across industry and experience level that is able to provide that company with perspective on what's going on in the world and how that company can navigate to continue to succeed. And they help with big decisions. We as individuals should have the very same thing in our lives. And some of us do naturally, right? Maybe it's our spouse, maybe it's a longtime friend or family member. Maybe it is a colleague, right? And we probably have this sort of, ramshackled together as a personal board of advisors, but have never really sat down and said, like, who are the people that I'm going to go to help me solve my problems? And you probably heard me talk about in the past this idea of having must, should, and nice goals. And then, and I think that concept is, what are the things that I must do, right? Like what is the minimum amount of money that I have to make to keep my lights on, right? And not end up in the poorhouse. And then how much money should I make to have the lifestyle that I want, right? Or to be able to save the money or pay down the debt that I want to pay down at the rate I want to pay it down. And then what would be really nice, right? And I find that too often we are setting goals that either must or nice, right? Like, what's the minimum scenario that I need to, keep breathing? And then, what would it look like if I never had to work again? Those are great guardrails, but I think the idea of putting the should in there is it allows us to see just how easily we can go from must to should. Right, from just barely meeting it to living the life that we may want. And then there is, of course, the highest level, which is living our life by design. If you have those goals and you can look at that and say, oh, well, it's just a few steps to get from must to should. Think about the people who can help you get there. Think about the people who you would put on your board. Who are the people that you would need to be in relationship with such that you would have the support you needed to do the things that you need to do to live the life that you want to live. And then think about who are the people who could or would help you and who are the people that would want to, right? We just said on the last slide that, from a mindset standpoint, we go out there and we're, we have to believe that people, care about themselves and want to do well and think about what's in it for them. But at the very same time, most people aren't comfortable asking for help. Well, we have to realize that about ourselves as well, and get comfortable with identifying who could help us and then go ask them for that help. And then the biggest takeaway from this segment of the book, with the idea of really getting intentional about who you are and who you want to be, where you are and where you want to be, and then identifying the people that can help you get there, is this concept of digging the well before you're thirsty, right? This really can't be stressed enough. It's the same way in our real estate businesses. It's the same way in our fitness and weight loss goals. It's the same way for our financial futures. You can't just quickly assemble a network of people that are committed and invested and know you and like you and want to help you whenever an opportunity shows up and arises, or tragedy shows up and in your life. That's when having that network, that support system is there. Having it there before you need it is one of the most valuable things, and building into who are the people that you want to be in relationship with 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and what is the path there. I'm not sure if this just popped into my head or if this was from the book, but has anybody ever been involved with a nonprofit, any nonprofit work, or maybe worked with a foundation or a school or anything like that? Just head nods or thumbs up in the chat box. All right. Yes, indeed. Seeing some nods and some chat box stuff there. So, one of the things that typically shows up in your work with a foundation or a nonprofit is this idea of, how are we going to fund this thing? And then you get into the conversation around fundraising and this dirty little word called a capital campaign, right? And so many people want to come in and say, well, we got to do a capital campaign. We're going to raise $1 million. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to rebuild the auditorium, whatever it is. And the people who do it really well say, hey, we're going to do a capital campaign in 3 years, and we're going to spend the next 35 months, right, building relationships, growing our donor base, growing the opportunity to earn the right to ask people to give, so that on month 36, when we launch this campaign, everything that we're talking about, we can put in the context of what's important to our constituents and get them excited about being a part of it. Most fundraising campaigns, most capital campaigns, most requests for support from most people is showing up as a request for something immediate, when it is needed, for a reason that is only important to the person receiving it, right? And so think about this leverage that you would have with a personal board of directors, right? If you're investing in relationships over time, and when you need the help, the support, when you need to lever for a capital campaign or a big life decision, or asking for the referral or whatever it is, you have dug that well, and that'll be very, very impactful to your success rate. All right, let's talk a little bit about what it actually means to do some of this skill building and build some of these relationships and networks. Really important takeaways here. If they sound familiar, that'll reiterate my point around how I feel like this is a great book for realtors. But you want to have a system for when you're preparing to meet somebody. So what happens as you start to build a network is it starts to snowball, right? And somebody that thinks that you should know somebody that they know, right? And remember that, because that's a great skill, going the other way. Hey, I've loved chatting with you. Your goals align with this person's goals. I'd love to put you two together. That being a connector is really powerful, but have a system for preparing to meet someone. right? So, it could be as simple as I Google their name, I connect with them on Facebook, I connect with them on LinkedIn. And, if somebody else set up the appointment, I introduce myself ahead of time digitally, right? It could be that, from a real estate standpoint, you go to the county auditor's website, you type in their name, you see where they live, you see when they moved there. If the conversation of real estate comes up, you're going to be a little bit more well versed to talk about things that might be important to them if they live in Bainbridge instead of living in Lorraine. Okay, great. The second thing is have a system for asking good questions, right? You're getting to know somebody, you're meeting them for the first time. There's this tendency to lean on small talk about the weather, talk about the Browns, talk about, oh, the Cavs look great this year. Or, what do you think? Bibb just got elected, and like some of those things are, if you're talking about anything that's in the news, right, you're probably not asking good questions. The great, the great one that we are all taught in bold is the Ford script, which is family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If you are ever at a wedding or a cocktail party or just a networking event, and you are in conversation with somebody, just lean on those. Hey, what do you do for a living? What do you do for fun? What do you do for fun is one of the best questions, because everybody does something for work. And unfortunately, the majority of people don't work in real estate, so they don't love it like we do. And, but that's always a great question, because they reciprocate and they say, well, what do you do? And then you get to talk about real estate. But what do you do for fun allows you to get to know somebody on a much more intimate level, much more quickly, right? And they might say something like, oh my God, my kids are just at that age where they're constantly playing sports. I don't know the last time I've done anything for fun. Oh, well, if somebody took your kids for the weekend, what would you do? And so you go down this rabbit hole and you learn more about this person very quickly. But if you're just, wandering around the wedding reception, bumping into people, hoping that you overhear somebody say, oh, I would love to buy a house in 6 weeks, right? Then you're not going to have the opportunity to do the next thing, which is, the next thing on the next slide, which is the follow-up piece. So we're going to talk about that in a second. The other thing I would say is have a system for always keeping your plate full. Yes, that is a pun, as you will find I will sneak in quite frequently. But this idea of never eating alone is really solidifies in the middle of the book, where he talks about just keeping a full dance card, keeping your social calendar full, and doing it in a way that, God forbid we make it fun. Like, what do you like to do? Do you like to go shopping? Go have somebody go shopping with you. You like to go out to eat? Have them. Yeah, Polly, I'm speaking directly to you. I hope Bruce isn't in the room. And so, if you like to go out to eat, go out to eat three times a week. But the rule is you only get to go if you're taking somebody that you've never met before, or you're going somewhere that you've never gone before, whatever it is. But the idea is you can't be alone, and it's got to be fun, right? This should not feel like work. And that is when it really gets rocking and rolling, is when you are doing the things that you like to do and you're bringing somebody else along with you, and you've done it in a way that is calendarized and consistent. And then have a system for finding an opportunity to be helpful. So this is really, really valuable. And as I kind of got to in some of the asking good questions, when you ask good questions, right? And listen, your system for that can be as simple as Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, and then just ask good open-ended follow-up questions, right? Open-ended as in, stuff that can't be answered with a yes or no. So they have to tell you something. They have to go into a narrative for you. But then, as you navigate that, have some questions in your back pocket that are going to allow you to find an opportunity to be helpful. I like to think about this as I call it the powwow, problem of the week or win of the week, right? POWWOW, powwow, problem of the week or win of the week. And so when you're in conversation with somebody, as you are talking maybe about work or about family or about their dreams or about fun, you know, you could say something like, hey, what's the biggest problem you're trying to solve right now? They start to tell you about work. They're a civil engineer. It's an incredibly potentially boring conversation. You might say, what's the biggest problem that you're trying to solve right now? And they're probably going to have something around money or people are usually the two biggest problems that we run into with work. And that's going to be really important to put a pin in as you go into your Rolodex and think about who could help them. And we're going to come back to that when we talk about this idea of being a connector and a super connector. But here's the most important takeaway. Like everything else in life, right? There is a natural ceiling for everything that we do. And networking is that case. We all know somebody who is just naturally good at making connections, making people feel important, making people feel special, right? And then solidifying relationships. That's great. Doing it with, people, doing it with the 300 students in my high school and the 100 in my graduating class, like, yeah, easy. Graduating and going to Ohio State, right? 60,000 students, a little bit different equation to do that. The natural ceiling will always be hit, and we will always be able to break through the first natural ceiling that we hit with systems. And this cannot be stressed enough and should sound very familiar. Having systems for anything. If you do anything twice, you need a system for it. So, you get introduced to somebody, have a system for what you're going to do before you meet them. You meet them, have a system for the questions you're going to ask. Have a system for, keeping your social calendar packed with the things that are fun and people you want to do things with or get to know better. And then have a system for finding an opportunity to help and then following up on that. So let's talk about follow-up. Follow-up or fail. It's a little bit more blunt than the fortune is in the follow-up conversation. But as we know, follow-up is key to success in any field or any endeavor. And so we're going to lean on systems here as well. So hypercritical that we have a system for immediate follow-up, right? There are so many times that and listen, this is hypercritical for the time of year that we're in, the amount of people that we're going to meet, the amount of opportunities that we're going to have to add leads into our system, add nodes into our network, is having a system that immediately solidifies the interaction, right? Play through this scenario with me. Tom Seaman and I are going out. We go out to the bar on a Friday night. It's, December. We're out, we're hanging out, we're having a few brewskis, and we run into a couple individuals that are talking about buying and selling real estate, whatever. And we are having a great time. We exchange information, and then we go on about our night, have a little bit too much fun. The next morning, Tom doesn't sleep in, but I've been known to do it from time to time. So you sleep in, you get a late start to your day. All of a sudden, okay, college football's on. Now we're into Sunday. Browns are playing. It's Monday. Busy Monday, first day of the week. Tuesday, got to run a sales meeting. Next thing I know, it's next Friday, and there's been no communication with the people that have a clear intent to buy, sell, or invest in real estate from that conversation. Now, that's a really extreme example, but that's happening with the people who even show the faintest interest in you or being in relationship with you. And so it's really important to have a system for following up to solidify the interaction so that they know who you are, what you do, where they met you, all of that, right? And it'll feel like overkill. And it could even, could feel a little bit awkward. But if you tell people not to forget you, they won't forget you. If you assume that they will remember you, right, then they probably won't. So a few things that could be done here. You exchange information, hey, the next day you shoot them a quick email. Hey, Tom, great to meet you last night at the Winking Lizard. Enjoyed our conversation as much as I enjoyed the IPAs. Looking forward to following up with you and the missus in January about what the housing market looks like, right? So now Tom gets that email. He knows where he met me, what we talked about, when he's going to hear from me again. And you could do, depending on the nature of the relationship and what's next, you could do a handwritten note. You could shoot him a text message. You could follow up with a phone call in 48 hours, right? If there's something specific in the conversation that you noted, this person, oh my God, all Tom talks about is, how good Chick-fil-A is. And then I drive by a Chick-fil-A. It's an excuse for me to reach out to Tom, solidify the relationship, remind him we had a great conversation, a great time together, and that we should hang out again sometime and potentially do business together. Keep in mind, you are not being too pushy when you do this, right? How many people have you met in the last 10 days that you may have already forgotten, right? You probably couldn't tell me because you've already forgotten them. But if somebody followed up with you and said, hey, Don, great meeting, blah, 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 thanks. Now, an email is great because you're in their inbox, they see your name, and now you've burrowed in to their address book, right? So when they start typing out an email or typing somebody in the to line, you can pop into it, right? There's like so many great little things that can come from that, but having a system is important because if you don't have a system, there's a chance you might not do it. And then there's it goes beyond that to having a system for continual follow-up that cultivates the relationship, right? And that could be something as simple as, think back to the skills that we talked about previously about keeping a full social calendar. Maybe it's that, these are the people that you have breakfast with this individual once a quarter, right? You have dinner with this person once a month, right? And so you just keep scheduling out. Or maybe it's you are, we all know about drip campaigns. And yeah, I mean, that is exactly what this is. And it can be as simple as, they get on your monthly newsletter, right? And then they get some additional piece of follow-up. It could also be that you, if you met, somebody who worked at SwageLock, right? And you were building the relationship with them. You knew that they were an executive there, let's say, or some vice president. You might go into your the Google machine, and set an alert for just to push any article about SwageLock into your inbox. So now something happens that puts SwageLock in the news. An article runs, it gets published on the internet, Google finds it and delivers it to your inbox in the same day. So now you open that up and you see that they've just acquired XYZ ball bearing factory. Well, that's great because now you have an excuse to reach out and say, oh, geez, hey, Brad, I just saw this thing about SwageLock. That's so cool. Hey, how have you been? You want to get together for a drink sometime? Oh, yeah, you want to get together and grab a bite to eat? I'm going to be in town, blah, 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 right? So having some system that puts you in the know for what's important to those people. And yeah, is it, can it be a lot when you think about doing that for 50 different people? It can. But it can also be incredibly valuable as a way to cultivate the relationship, be invested in them, focused on them, right? How different does it look whenever you send that email to the SwageLock executive that says, hey, I saw this happen to you, instead of just letting them be a part of your drip campaign, telling them what's happening to me. Right? Hey, look, I just sold this house. Some people care because they care about you, but the people you're building relationships with, networking with, and cultivating business development with care a lot more about themselves, right? So if you're investing in them and they know who you are and what you do, when the time comes that they have a need, you will have pole position in their mind. So this is pretty cool. They did a quick, there's like an insert on like events, right? And networking events, this idea it sounds just like it sounds like a snake eating itself, right? A networking event, an event set up exclusively to bring people together and bump into each other. And he said that, they can be pretty drab events, right? And I think, I'm sure we've all been around long enough to have been to a networking event that made us want to pull our hair out. And we said, what the hell was the point of that? So he talks about ways to maximize these events, whether it's a conference, right? Like a family reunion, an event, like a big training that we would do, like a business planning clinic, whatever it is. There are ways to maximize it for your opportunities. First one is show up early and stay late. Stay after, right? Like, if you want to maximize the opportunity for an event, don't be the person that shows up at 9:15 for a 9 o'clock event and leaves at 10:01 when it ends at 10, right? Like, be somebody who is, there 5 to 10 minutes early, and take advantage of the opportunity to linger a little bit, right? Because the people who are there early and are there late have the opportunity to do something that is help. So if you've ever put on an event, you might know that as things are coming together and the doors are opening at 10 or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever it is, there's a lot of things that have to happen in the last 10 minutes, right? And so if you're there early, you have the opportunity with an event organizer to be like, hey, do you need any help? Hey, yeah, I was here early, and I was like, I'll skip the Starbucks and just show up and see if anybody needs anything. And then you might be, unfolding some chairs or pinning some bunting on a stage or something like that at the very last minute. But now you've just developed a relationship with the person or the people running the event, right? And you now have pole position in their mind, and you also have like a safe space, right? Sometimes networking events can be really intimidating, but if you've already built a relationship with somebody who has the relationships with everybody else in the room, you can go to that person in the middle of the event and just say, hey, checking in, how's everything going? What do you think of the event? Is there anybody here that you think I should meet? So you can only do that if you're there. And then the same thing goes with teardown, right? If it's an event like a conference, speak up and pay attention to who speaks up. Who's talking at a conference, goes to the microphone, asks the question, just make a quick note, follow up with them at the cocktail hour and say, hey, I thought that was a great question you asked. Tell me a little bit more about, what's the question behind the question. Get them talking that way. Obviously maximize the moment, be present. We've got, we got the world at our fingertips, which is a blessing and a curse. So, you're at a conference, you're at a networking event, you're at a whatever, put the phone on silent, interact with people there. It makes a huge, huge difference. And then leverage your systems for follow-up, right? This, the networking event is just it's a lot of one-on-one interactions all jammed together, or the conference is the same thing. So be sure to take advantage of that. All right, and so then let's bring it home with our last couple sections here. This one is around leveling up your connections. So as you get into more relationships, right, they'll start to stratify, and you'll start to get into some that are deeper than others, right? And as people start to level up in their relationship status with you, or you end up on their personal board of directors, or maybe they end up on yours, or you end up on theirs, it's important to understand what makes them tick. What makes them tick? And there are really only three things the author Keith Ferrazzi puts forward that make people tick. It's making money, right? That's a big motivator. Finding love or joy, right? Like, finding that special moment, and then changing the world, right? And depending on stage and age in life, there's some interesting predictabilities around this that we're not going to explore today. But when you get into a deeper relationship, this is a weird thing to ask somebody the first time you meet them, right? But if you've met them, you've solidified the relationship, you've followed up, you've had an additional interaction, and you're like, wow, this is somebody that I actually want. This is somebody that I see being able to help me immensely, somebody that I love the way they think, I love the way they problem solve. I want them to be a part of my life, right? I want to solidify this relationship, figure out what makes them tick, figure out like, what are they trying to do? They're trying to, make enough money to never have to work again in 5 years. They're trying to create generational wealth, for their family. Are they trying to, eat, pray, love their way to figure out like what they should be doing with their life? I don't know. Or are they at the point in their life where, they are successful in their career and they, have a successful and happy, healthy home life, and they're interested in making an impact in, an underdeveloped or underserved community, or changing the world in some way. If you understand that, you can understand, how you can help them, right? And then this is where the leveling up of connections pays huge dividends. And I think from a real estate standpoint, we kind of see this as a referral flywheel, right? I was talking to an agent just 2 weeks ago who's talking about how they got their first like what they called their grand referral, right? So like they got a referral, they served a client who gave them a referral. They then served that client who gave them a referral, right? And so the referral was, like a grandchild, it was a grand referral to them. But you spin that flywheel. And the same thing can happen when, as you building your network and you start to understand what makes people tick, you can put people together in very unique ways. And then, there is a section here. It feels like follow-up, but they treat it as something different. They call it mastering the art of the ping, right? Which is just the casual, feeding of the connection fire so that it doesn't go out, right? And I kind of struggled with this initially. I was like, how is this different than follow-up? And I think that it is, unsystematized, right? And it is sort of this idea that, when you think, how many times a day did somebody cross our mind and we're like, that's interesting, but we don't do anything about it, right? But if everybody just right now took out your phone and sent like, hey, just thought of you. Hope you're doing well. Wishing you all the best as we enter into the winter months and wrap up 2021. Who knows what that could do, for a relationship, for your business, just for that person's day, right? And you can do it with a hint of gratitude. Hey, I know it's been a few months since we had lunch, but the conversation we had really stuck with me and has really helped me make some, I think, better decisions, in the context of that conversation. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. Right. And so, finding the reason to be in touch is really what this ping is about. And I think that the time of year that we're in allows for it more than any other time of year, right? Like there's no, hey, I'm at the backyard barbecue for the 4th of July and I thought of you and it, I'm wishing you and your family the best next year, right? Like we've got, it just, it wouldn't feel the same as it does right now. And people are on receive for gratitude and joy and relationships and reconnecting. So I'll challenge everybody on the call today, just, open up your phone, spin the contacts like a roulette wheel, stop it. Whoever you stop on, just ping them and say, hey, it's the craziest thing. I have no idea why you popped into my head today. And I just wanted to reach out and say, I hope you're doing well. And I hope you're going to get to see your friends and family and have a great holiday season or whatever. And just see where it goes. And if it goes somewhere interesting, report back. And then the last thing to do to level up your connections, and this could be leveling up a connection, could be solidifying a relationship, it could serve in a lot of different ways. But I love the Ben Franklin rule. Ben Franklin had this rule, this belief that he, if he wanted to build a relationship with somebody, if he needed something from someone, it was exactly what it was. If he had a need that he thought somebody else could fill for him, he would go do them a favor, right? or if he needed he would do them a favor. If they had a bad relationship with somebody, he would do them a favor. And the idea is this rule of reciprocity, right? Is that, or sorry, he would ask them for help. That's what it was. He would ask them for help. I'm sorry, I mixed that up. So if Ben Franklin needed to solidify a relationship or repair a relationship, he would go ask somebody for a favor. And people, they don't like to do favors for people they don't hold in high regard. And so his belief was that by asking them to do him a favor, he would improve their estimation, his estimation in their eyes, because if they did the favor, specifically it was something that they were good at and was easy for them, it would make him look and feel better. So I think the easiest way to do this is if you know somebody is good at something, if you know that they have a talent or a skill set or a passion, and you identify a need in someone other than you, right? This gets into the super connector aspect. Is if you say, hey, can you do me a favor? I've got a friend who is, trying to trying to help her kid figure out where to go to college. And I know that, you said that, you've got twins and you just did it with two people at the same time 2 years ago. Would you mind hopping on the phone with her and just chatting for a few minutes about what that process looks like and any lessons learned? And what are they going to say? No. Now, of course, they're going to say, yeah, I'd love to. Right. And then that allows them to do some help, puts you in a position to be a connector, and you have an increased value to both of those people. Right. And this is the final part of networking, is that as you start to do it more, you start to do more business development, you start to really invest in it. You have to increase your openness. You have to increase your openness to being in someone else's network. And I always say, give back to get back. And I know I'm looking at the people on this call. I know a lot of people do that. And I always, I benefited a lot in my life from mentors. I think mentors matter. And I think that if you have the opportunity to mentor someone, support someone, help guide someone, that will pay huge dividends. Not altruist. There is no altruism, right? At the very least, it's going to make you feel really good. But at the most, it's going to give you the opportunity to be in relationship with more people about more things and be helping other people. You'll learn a lot about yourself. And you'll learn a lot about other people. Also, remember this rule of this personal board of advisors. It reminded me of the rule of 5, which is like, you are the average of the 5 people around you, the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I think we've all probably heard that trope one time or another. The important thing to remember is that in the 5 people that are around you, there's somebody trying to get out of that, and there's somebody trying to get in to your circle of 5, right? So there's somebody trying to level up and get out, and there's somebody trying to level up to get in, right? And so you should also consider that as well, right? If you've had the same 5 people in your life for the last 5 years and you've gotten the same results, it might be time to start thinking about, who are the people that I want to be in relationship with, or, right, am I approaching my relationships with my 5 people the same way or the right way? And then I will plug this. If you're at the Business Planning Clinic on Monday, you'll hear a lot about this as well. But come into the office, right? It is a great opportunity for serendipitous interaction, to overhear people having conversations and having needs, right? You sit in the bullpen, you sit in the office, and you can hear people making calls, struggling with FSBOs, right? You can hear people struggling with a terrible co-broke. You can hear people closing their first deal. You can have all of these things, and everything around us, when we change our mindset and change the way that we look at things, becomes an opportunity. And it becomes an opportunity to build a relationship, right? And it's one of the strongest things, if not the strongest thing, about this company. And I think that as we're seeing some seasonality re-enter the marketplace, we're starting to see more people in the office. And, very nice to see everybody still lead generating through this seasonality shift. But the opportunity to just, be in, have a cup of coffee, make a couple phone calls, bump into a couple people, build a couple relationships. Oh, you sell in this area, I sell in that area, right? Well, who's going to be your go-to, whenever you have, you're selling your first house in Cleveland Heights and you have no idea how the POS works, right? Or any of that, right? Well, if you are in the office and you heard somebody, talking about how they're farming that area, you build that relationship, swap information, you solidify the relationship, you maybe do some follow-up, right? Hey, I'm going to be in the office. You're going to be in the office today, blah, blah, blah. And then, when the time comes that, you need somebody to pull something through the funnel for you really fast to get something done, that might be the person, right? And so it is really hard to do the networking and relationship building well in the digital world, right? I have friends who still work in corporate America, and they talk about, team building and onboarding and getting people ingrained into the culture. All of that stuff is damn near impossible when you're doing it through a screen, right? And we have an awesome community and awesome culture. And I think that if in the next 60 to 90 days, you wanted to maximize it more and more and more, it would be consistently showing up, saying hello to people, meeting the people that you work with and taking advantage of the opportunity to build a relationship and practice on people in the same industry as you and take advantage of that. So that is Never Eat Alone in 50 minutes. So any questions, comments, concerns, ahas, anything that jumped out at you, stuck out at you? What do you guys think? Polly?
Yeah, one of the things I actually ordered the book. So one of the things that jumped out about in this book to me, actually, you touched on through every single one of your points. And it's in the beginning on page 29, but it says, human ambitions are like Japanese carp. They grow proportional to the size of their environment. Our achievements grow according to the size of our dreams and the degree to which we are in touch with our mission. So that to me was like circled, big aha. And then I didn't understand that was like really throughout the whole book, but you're bringing it forward. That's just what stuck in my head. So thank you.
Yeah, it is. That is a very, very powerful statement. And one of the biggest underpinnings of this idea of a personal board of advisors or that rule of five, who are the five people, whenever I always put it like this, for those of you with kids, if your kids are your teenagers or adults at this point, there was probably a time in your kid's life where, I'll just be autobiographical. I remember the moment, it was sixth grade, going into junior high, when my mom told me I couldn't hang out with those boys anymore. Right. And she obviously saw what I didn't, which was that, hey, from a behavioral standpoint, their goals, their motivations, all of that, like my friend group was not awesome. And so she was very clear to just say, like, you don't get to be friends with Josh and Joel and Anthony anymore. And so I had to go make new friends, and I made different friends, and those friends played sports, and those friends got good grades. And so my mom plucked me out of that and put me in a different friend group. And I always say, if we looked at who we spent our time with and from the eyes of our parents, would we approve of our friend group? Right. And that's the environment that you're talking about there, Paulie, is who are you spending time with? How big are they thinking? How ambitious are they? How much do, am I spending my time with, people in victim mode? Am I spending my time with people that, don't want to live on the lake, who don't want to live a life of abundance or a life by design? Am I looking at people who are going to, they're not retiring for another 30 years? Is that who I'm spending my time with? Right. That's a really powerful thing. And you know, sometimes we have to, you know, do an audit of our life and do some edits in our life.
Well, take it from a brokerage standpoint. I was successful at a completely different brokerage, but the reason I left is because I felt stymied. I didn't know I was feeling stymied. I had no idea, but I was. And then when, my friend Matt introduced me to Scott, I felt like, wow, is this guy even telling me the truth? Like, does this world exist? And so I ripped the band-aid off and switched brokerages. Like, I just dove into the deep end. And literally, so the dreams that I had, again, just reflecting back on human ambitions are like Japanese carp, they grow proportional to the size of their environment. My environment completely changed. And the dream of living on a lake took a year, but I'm here. I had people that supported it. Like, it's crazy. Like, just my whole environment changed and my world changed. So it's true with me, just for my environment of a brokerage standpoint. And that's not saying anything negative at all.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah,
I didn't know why I was frustrated.
yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, and it, you know, doesn't mean that there's no value judgment in that conversation around the people in your life. It's just, where do you want to go? Who's going there, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And it's got to be the right group of others. And I think that, you know, we are really, really powerful creatures as human beings, and we have control over our environment. We have control over who we spend time with. We have control over how we spend our time. And if we take advantage of that and get intentional about it, underpin it with a system, and please, dear God, make it fun. Then we'll get a lot out of it. And there will be a ton of upside. And I mean, instead of looking at it from the standpoint of like, oh, there's all these different things that could go wrong, and it's like, how great could things be if it went right? All right, team. Anyone else have anything as we wrap up here, as we reach the top of the hour? Anything else? Remarks for the good of the order? Well, hearing none, I'll thank all of you for being here this morning. It was a great session, and we have not picked a book for December, so I am open to suggestions. Enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing, I think, most of you on Monday at the Business Planning Clinic. Doors open at 8:30. Do not be late. We have over 150 agents attending. Everybody will need to get checked in, deal with CE, all that. So don't hesitate to be early, help with setup and then all of that, and we will go from there. Have a great day, guys.